Hi, I'm Lyle from the Idle Red Hands.
I'm Jeremy from the Idle Red Hands.
And welcome to our, I guess you would say, a discussion on Logan, because it's kind of late for a review. So we're going to divide this into our thoughts before we watch Logan, our thoughts after we watch Logan, and then we're going to also have a discussion, and we're going to link it also to role-playing games, which is our first love over comics or any other games. And talking about like the kind of themes that you can pull out of Logan, which you can incorporate into your role-playing games
Great.
of any system.
Yes. Yeah, we have no system bias.
Well, we do, but we don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. So going in, before you saw the film, what were you thinking about? I mean, had you read the comics previous to that?
No. Not before deciding to see the movie.
Oh, okay.
I hadn't seen Old Man Logan, and I remember I tweeted something about how DC is really hitting it out of the park, whereas Marvel hasn't been recently with their storylines and that. Whereas DC's Rebirth seems to be really well received. And then somebody tweeted back that that they agreed, but that the Old Man Logan series was the best comic on the shelf. So I thought, okay, great. I didn't know this person, but I'm like, I'm going to get Old Man Logan because I want to see the movie Old Man Logan because I'm a fan of Hugh Jackman, and that was going to be his last role as Wolverine. So yeah, I got the first two trade paperbacks, Berserker and Border Town. Yeah. And I didn't read the Mark Miller stuff, where he had Mark Miller and Mick Niven. I guess introduced it earlier, but what's Lemire and Sorrentino? Yeah, Sorrentino. So read those and got to be honest, a little underwhelmed by Old Man Logan. It's one of those comics where you read it and you can understand why people like it. Yeah. But you're like, it's not really for me. I did care for the art, and you read it because I lent them to you afterwards. Right. So what did you think of Old Man Logan? Yeah,
when the movie was first announced, I read the synopsis because I wasn't familiar with that setting, the kind of alternative setting for Old Man Logan, and it sounded just out of control. The Hulk gang and the post-apocalyptic, kind of setting. And so I expected it to be something pretty wild and pretty crazy. And those books, they were pretty sedated. They're dark in tone and kind of gritty and kind of low key. And I wasn't blown away by that. And I also, reading those books, I was worried they were going to try to do some of these things like the time travel or something in the film. So it made me a little, although you didn't see any of that in the trailers, it made me worried about what they might try to do, what they might try to include to make the story a little hard to follow or less comprehensible. And I think they ultimately made good decisions. But going in, I had my doubts that if they were using this as any kind of source material, that there might be a little trouble. There wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. It was pretty dark, and overall the tone of the comics were okay. Old man, this is the new Marvel. Hulk is Korean, Hawkeye's a girl. Get used to it. And I didn't enjoy that tone because I'm an old.
You're an old man.
Yeah, I'm an old man. I'm an old man. Logan. Yeah. So reading the 80s X-Men and then kind of dealing with this makes it it's a little sad. It's a little the darkness of the setting wasn't what I expected. I expected it to be a little bit more fanciful.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point about being a little sad. And when you're reading grimmer comics, let's say, because we'll probably touch on it later, like the Dark Knight Returns or the Watchmen. Maybe because we were reading at the time that you're reading them when we were young. Yeah, and they weren't as sad for us, but now we're reading Old Man Logan, and we are old. Yeah. So like you said, it kind of resonates maybe too much.
Right. Yeah. You feel. Yeah.
And the time travel maybe cuts a little deep. Where I was reading it thinking, oh no, not time travel again, and it's an alternate world again. Right. But maybe it was just this is the new comic book world, and it's not for me, old man. Yeah, and maybe that's me. I was reacting to that, or it was the art.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Both of them were.
Yeah, and in the trade paperbacks, for people unfamiliar, there's in the back of the first one is a Mark Miller and I think McNiven story where he takes on the Hulk. And I had heard about Old Man Logan, and I knew about the Hulk, and I thought he played a more prominent role. But he didn't play a prominent role in the Lemire Sorrentino, well, at least what we've read so far.
Right.
But he does. He's like really prominent in this backstory. So, yeah, I was wondering if I was guessing the Hulk wasn't going to make an appearance because you might have heard that, but I deliberately didn't read anything about Logan going in because I wanted, to be surprised.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
but I wanted to have the Old Man Logan just so I could compare or see if I can pick up any inspiration. So I read that and I thought they're probably not going to do time travel because that was Days of Future Past, which I loved. I loved that. I thought their time travel was done really well.
Yeah, it was very fun.
But if you can't really follow up Days of Future Past with, well, I guess they followed it up with Apocalypse, but you can't then follow up with another time travel one.
Right.
Yeah, so... Yeah. So going in, I was still... the reviews were great.
Yeah, I had a lot of hope for it.
I think it was, expecting it to be Marvel's, Dark Knight trilogy. Yeah, the serious superhero movie, or the movie that took superheroes seriously and hit it out of the park. Yeah. And then I knew Patrick Stewart was going to be in it, so I was looking forward to seeing him and Hugh Jackman reunite and what was going to happen there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was looking forward. I mean, the trailer looked very promising, and they played the Johnny Cash song.
I didn't even watch the trailers.
Oh yeah. So that. Wow. Yeah, so that kind of set things up. I thought that was.
I mean, you guys actually took me to the theater blindfolded.
Oh, that's right.
So it was that surprise.
Right. Yeah. We drove around the block a few times, so you didn't know which theater it was going to be, and
and it was like, wow, this isn't Cars 3. Yeah. I actually think Cars 3 is going to open up probably around the same time.
Really?
I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see.
We've got the Cars 3 books in the bookstore.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Good.
I'll have to do a review on that.
Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait. Finishing the Cars trilogy, and I can't wait to see how they wrap that up.
I hear it's a darker song.
Is it? Yeah.
Actually, we'll do a comparison of Logan and...
okay, yeah, that's right.
Because Lightning McQueen is going to be the Logan of Cars 3.
It will be, yeah.
Even cars get older.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I can't wait to see that turn that Mater takes at the end, and just, Wow. Yeah.
Told you. Yeah. All right. So what did you think of... What did you think of the movie afterwards? Yeah.
Oh, I was really pleased with how small the story was. How they kept it contained, and you could really enjoy that character in that setting. Yeah. And it was a nice kind of farewell to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, as that character. Yeah. And I wasn't... From the first few movies, I was not a fan. I didn't like that casting very well. He's like over 6 feet tall, and I was never like, oh, that's Wolverine. So it was always kind of pushing it for me. You got used to it as the films went on, but this was a really nice. I felt like because you related to that actor as that character now after 6 or 7 appearances on film, that I enjoyed what they did with it. Yeah. And also what they did, Professor X's senility and those kinds of things were. Oh,
we should just say there'll be spoilers. Yeah.
So if you still haven't,
like who's going to watch an actual review video?
right.
At this stage in the game, yeah, there will be spoilers. We think it's pretty safe.
It's been a while. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, if you haven't opened that Blu-ray yet, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen Logan, go back to the beginning of this and just watch our witty banter on these trailers, because I think we'll talk a lot. Or, there'll be a time code.
Skip ahead to, really? I'm doing that? Oh, my. All right. Yeah, so, I was happy with the size of the movie. It wasn't out of control. I think the Old Man Logan... comics have a much bigger scale and are a little bit more of control with the cast of characters.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was surprised that it was so near in the future.
No, right.
Yeah, it was 2029?
Yeah.
Is that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And I was expecting further in the future based on Old Man Logan, yeah.
And it's nice that they did that, everything's just a little messed up. There's driverless, tractor trailers flying down the highway and spoilers. And just those little touches that, it was not a total dystopia, but things aren't going great. Like things are kind of continuing in that miserable way. You can see them continuing with
I think we need more Demolition Man where things are actually going really well. Yes. And Logan is just grumpy. It's like, what's with this Korean Hulk?
Yes.
Hawkeye's a woman?
Yeah.
Wonder Woman 5? Doing well?
Yeah, so,
really rubbing it in to the old comic book readers.
Yeah, and it didn't really... The movie, I think, didn't have any of that... The feeling that the comics did as far as this is not your world anymore. You felt them, kind of aging out, and they were at the end of their lives, both of the X-Men characters, but at the same time, it wasn't. They weren't being displaced by something. It was just the natural end of their lives, and they did a nice job with just being allowed to feel that and to feel like what someone that was given these superpowers, like the kind of backstory is that the adamantium is poisoning him, right? So that's what's killing him. It's his body being laced with that. He's getting older. His regeneration ability isn't working, and the adamantium is killing him. So ultimately, the thing that made him strong is ending his life.
You know what I thought about watching that movie? I hadn't never thought about this before. Was do his teeth have adamantium?
Just the fillings? I don't know.
Well, because your teeth actually don't heal.
Right.
And they have no healing factor, but he's got a full set of teeth in the comics, and
quite a few would have been knocked out. Yeah, that's true.
So I guess the healing factor extends to the teeth, but I really like that where. And the adamantium poisoning him, I thought was like a really minor thing. It was just kind of explaining this is why you're dying really fast.
Yeah, right.
As opposed to living till you look like a really old man.
Mm-hmm.
But in both Professor X's case and Logan's case, really the ultimate enemy was just time.
Yes.
Yeah, and just old age, and there was no grandiose explanation why Professor X is at the stage he was. It just... Yeah, you are, what, I think he's like 90-something, 98 or something?
Right.
In the movie. And it happens, unfortunately. Even somebody with the most powerful mind. And it actually made it more chilling because it was, when they're talking about that, he's now very dangerous because he has the most powerful mind, but it's now breaking down. And they draw comparisons to like a nuclear weapon. And you're like thinking about that, like,
right.
A nuclear power plant is really powerful. It gives us all this clean energy. But when they start to break down, there's a problem. I guess that would really, strikes home here in Japan, where I mean, we're not that close to Fukushima, but you hear like the kids that make it really sad. Like all these teenagers are getting thyroid cancer in Fukushima, but to see that in the movie, I thought that was really, really well done. I really liked the inclusion of Stephen Merchant.
Oh yeah.
As Caliban.
Yeah, he does really well, and he kind of I was surprised because he's so recognizable. I guess if you're familiar with him and Ricky Gervais, but he does a really good job in that role because he's quirky looking enough, and with a shaved head and everything, he really pulls that off. He's very nice.
And it can be quite a somber movie, but like especially like his character adds a few humorous touches, and you need that to kind of break it up. Like
definitely.
Logan's kind of descending into alcoholism. Just a well-placed few witticisms from the Caliban character about that same subject.
Right.
And I really liked it. It wasn't a shift in tone. It was just a nice way to keep the tone moving along, and the movie's still enjoyable, although fairly serious. Yeah.
Yeah, and they allude in the movie, I mean, they don't show a lot of it, but they allude to some pretty dark events. Like, they talk about the Westchester incident. So Professor X's, like, first seizure, or the first kind of loss of control that he has killed X-Men, has killed students, you know, you know, what he has, you know, lived his whole life to do is to, you know, create a shelter and a safe place for these young mutants, and, you know, because of his age, because of his loss of ability, you know, they died.
Yeah.
So it's a very sad, and it's a very dark events. And then also the what they allude to with the experiment. So they go to Mexico, so the, you know, where the law isn't going to stop them, and experiment on children, you know, with making mutant children from the DNA that they have.
Yeah.
And
which ties back to the comics with X-23.
Oh, right.
Like, they make her from Logan's DNA in the comics, so it was a nice explanation, and
I think it worked well. And then that was able to give them a you know, father-daughter tone in the movie that kind of, you know, you weren't expecting, and I wasn't quite sure how far they were going to take it, but they did it, I think, just the right amount. You know, she was cold and you know, kind of resentful to him. And then, you know, finally at the end, you know, you kind of have her emotional, like, you know, finally when she's losing him, you know, it becomes very emotional. She realizes, this is my father.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, the themes that they introduce into this superhero movie, you normally don't see. I mean, aging, family ties, or very blatant family ties, as well as who are you? Or going back to, like, your real self. It's not, I think a lot of superhero movies focus on finding who you are, whereas this is going back to who you are. And I think maybe the question is, that people might discuss after the movie, is who is the real Logan? Is he like this killer who can't have a happy life? Or, as I walked out of the movie, it's like, no, Logan is a hero, and he can never escape that. So even, like, in that scene, which was great, it's like he's tucking Professor X in bed, and he's like, this is like a family life, and you can have this, and Logan knows he can't have it. And one of the reasons is, I mean, you could say, like, he's got that badness, you know, I'm the best at what I do, and what I do isn't very nice, but it's not so much that he's a killer, but that he's going to have to help people at some point. He can't escape that. And they base it's like an homage to Shane in a way, but different from Shane, the Western, in that Shane is a gunfighter and not a good person. Or even Unforgiven, which I thought it was based on until I saw the Shane movie in this movie. And again, like, the Clint Eastwood character, William Money, is not a good person, and he goes back to being a bad person after he tries to have a family life. Unlike those two examples, where they're bad people being drawn back into doing bad things for a good cause, he was actually like a good person, like a hero. He's kind of the violent hero, but he was still a hero, and he tried to get away from that. And, like, his heart, like the heart of gold, I mean, he didn't really have to help her. I mean, it's not like, oh, I'm going to take the money, I feel obligated. He just can't escape or can't stop being a hero. And that's how I viewed it. And you knew he was just never going, of course, because it's a movie, but also just because of that character, he's never going to allow the kids to go out on their own, because he just can't escape that. So, like Professor X saying, like, you can have a family life. No, he can't, because he's always going to have to be the hero. And being the hero brings, and these themes are touched on, like, even like comics like Spider-Man. Being a hero means you endanger the people around you.
Right.
Yeah, and then we saw that I was going to say to good effect, but I guess it's a terrible effect in what they do to that family.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Not Dave, Professor X and Logan, although everybody's seen this, but what happens to the family just because they come in contact with two heroes. No. That was a bit rambly, but yeah, I was just trying to say I liked all three themes, and I thought they were woven into the movie really well. And it was great to see Eric LaSalle.
Yes, all right. It's a graying salt and pepper Eric LaSalle.
I think I saw like his name in the credits, and I'm like, Eric LaSalle, I haven't seen him in a while. And then you see him on the road like as a family in a truck. It's like, ooh,
that's it.
Has his career gone? Is this point where 2 lines, and so okay, that's good. He's going to have more. So it's pretty good to see.
Oh yeah, and he did a good job. I think that that family was cast well, and it was a nice, that kind of, weird future kind of Dust Bowl situation where they were actually being, not run out because of a...
And that's very much from Shane as well. That's the farmers being forced off the homestead, so drawing them in, and he's got to save them. Didn't do a good job of that.
Yeah, they didn't. So I think the one thing in the movie that I wasn't crazy about is the Dark Wolverine, or the X-24, the clone of Wolverine. And I thought it was a little... I mean, what I remember from 80s X-Men is Wolverine is always battling with the kind of animal side, and that's why he learns meditation and his connection to Japan and things. Is that he's always trying to control this feral side of himself. And I think because they didn't show that so heavily in the movie, it was kind of Old Man Logan was a more resigned, doesn't care what happens to the world and is drawn back to being a hero. That character specifically doesn't have that battle with his animal side, so they have a wild, uncontrollable animal clone that's introduced, and they have to battle. And I think I would have preferred maybe like Lady Deathstrike or another character that could just kind of have represented that. She would have the same sort of powers, and I just didn't like. It reminded me too much of the Junkyard Superman fight in Superman 3, where it was just, he's got a dark t-shirt and he's got a light t-shirt, and it just
I agree. If I was going to pick something I didn't like about the movie, it might have been Dark Wolverine.
Do you think at all that choice was saying like especially the DC movies, the Batman and the Superman movies so far have had a dark tone, and heroes don't need to be dark. This is how you do dark and brooding without being emo. There
was probably a few. I can imagine, and I don't mean it was because it was a story by committee, but I imagine somebody came up with the idea and then suggested it, and people thought it was great. And they probably did. It's Animal Wolverine. It's like a Wolverine that hasn't been humanized. It's a dark Wolverine. It's and it could be, like you said, like a contrast to the overly grim, overly dark superhero movies. And we're showing that a more complex character fighting him is actually the way to go. It's kind of like, hey, this is how you make a superhero movie. I also think in a small way, one of the factors that might have led them to make that choice was the scene, which was a great scene from Patrick Stewart, when he remembers what happened. He's crying in bed, and because he thinks he's talking to Logan, and then of course he kills him. And one of the problems I had with that is, I think the payoff was, "What, Logan? What are you doing?" But it was so dark, I couldn't actually make out who it was. Right? So it didn't get me, and it took me a little bit before it's Logan. Of course, not Logan, but it's like I knew Liv Schreiber, the guy who played Sabretooth, wasn't in the movie. I knew he wasn't going to be in the movie, but he actually looked a little like that when it was so dark. So I just thought it was a different person.
Oh, interesting.
So I didn't get the, hey, that's Wolverine killing Professor X, and then afterwards I was like, I wonder if they thought that image was going to have a bigger payoff than it did. But
I wonder that too, and especially because previous to that, hadn't Professor X been saying, I guess that was back when they were in the tipped over water tower, like, you're such a disappointment to me, and that would be the ultimate end of a disappointing student, is he would kill the teacher. But I'm wondering, that didn't quite have, I agree with you, that didn't quite have the effect, and it was kind of, I don't know.
And also you might say, he's had this wonderful speech, and he thinks he's saying it to Logan, but no, he wasn't saying it to Logan. And it was nice Hugh Jackman later on, and it wasn't me.
Yeah,
it wasn't me. It was good. But I probably would have preferred to have him just say that to Hugh Jackman and just have that moment.
Yeah, I think so.
And
too.
then Hugh Jackman maybe leaves the room, and then somebody, maybe bestial Wolverine, coming back, and he's like, oh no, I don't need anything.
Yeah,
and then stabbing him or something. Like give them that moment. You know? There, it's like they had the moment because it was what do they call it? Where they digitally de-age you.
Digital de-aging?
Yeah, okay, good. I got that one. I didn't get foreshadowing, but I got that one. But a digitally de-aged Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart kind of, I guess, had the moment. But I would have preferred just to have Old Man Logan and Patrick Stewart have the moment. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. It was sad, Caliban going.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there was. That was a. That was.
I did like that with where Donald Pierce, which is different from the comics, but that was kind of neat to have him. I thought that actor was really well done.
Oh yeah.
With the cyborg. I don't think he was anything like Donald Pierce, but Donald Pierce in the comics is a cyborg who was part of the Hellfire Club.
Oh, right,
strangely,
right. Yeah,
but he wanted to kill all mutants, and he's part of the Reavers, or leads the Reavers, and he hates himself as well because he's not a full man; he's a half man. A complex character. The Donald Pierce guy didn't need to be that complex. I thought the actor did an amazing job. I've never seen him before.
No,
but I thought he was great.
Yeah.
But he has that scene when he's with Caliban, and he's like, "Did your mom say beware the light or something?" And I was like, kind of like, I don't know that you would really say that. You know?
Yeah, right.
Did your mom say? He was delivering it. It's one of those scenes where the actor's delivering the line well, but I just when he went, beware the light, I was like, I don't think the mom would say that. And you might say, stay out of the light, stay out of the sun. Did your mom say stay out of the sun or something? I wonder if they wrote that originally, like stay out of the sun, and then they had the Caliban scene later, and he's like, yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
stay out of
right.
Stay away from the grenades. No,
yeah, right.
No.
Yeah, that's true. Because it needed to be repeated. They had to make it more menacing.
And when he did that, I was like, okay, I get it. I do like the sacrifice. You know, one of my favorite scenes in Aliens is the Lieutenant Gorm.
Oh yeah.
And Vasquez. Yeah. And then they both put their hand on the grenade and it blows up. And you're like, I love that. I love that. So I did love that scene, but I was like, beware the light. Like, where's this coming from?
Yeah.
And how many Reavers are there in the world? Or Mexican police officers? It's one of those things. I don't know. You watch that, and you go, it looks like they have this many men, and they go in, and it looks like this many men were killed, but now you have this many men.
Right.
Like in that scene when they first. Where X-23 and Wolverine and Professor X first encounter the Reavers all together. So,
yeah, that's true. It was kind of an endless. But that brings up an interesting thing. I think they handled a child like X-23 in combat really well. I think visually that was interesting, and that's kind of a touchy thing.
Yeah.
You know, because you've got armed mercenaries chasing down children, and you know that could have been really horrifying. Like there could have been some things that they did or some things that they suggested that got a little too visually intense. But they did a really nice job making her completely vicious and competent, and so she didn't feel like she was in jeopardy. And then you got enough jeopardy when they were being chased at the end, when the whole group of the former patients, the children were fleeing to Canada when they were being chased at the end. There was enough jeopardy, but there wasn't anything where it just became uncomfortable, because that is two weird sides to kind of contrast against each other: cyborg mercenaries and little kids that aren't quite mastering their powers yet, and they're trying to freeze things, they're trying to make vines grow, and they're being
I wonder if they had some storyboards and it was like too much.
Yeah, we can't.
That's not going to work.
Yeah, because I mean there were things visually that people were kind of. Didn't like in like Apocalypse, like the billboard. There was a billboard in Los Angeles where Mystique is being held up by the throat.
Yeah.
So there weren't any images like that in the movie. That's like, oh yeah, that's not going to be a good still.
There were a lot of not only kids but female kids, girls, I guess you call them.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely wouldn't have played well to have adult or bestial Wolverine just pummeling one of the little girls.
Yeah, so I think they handled that well. You got
although it was a bit Children of the Corny for me.
Yeah, the end
with Donald Pierce, and I know he's a bad guy, but he was kind of a mercenary kind of bad guy. Right. So when they were like going around him, and you're like, "Ooh, why don't you just finish it?
Yeah,
just finish it." Yeah,
slowly squeezing him to death. Yeah,
getting a rock.
Yeah, and I think if he wouldn't have been in the video, like we saw a video of him, kind of bossing the kids around and abusing them in the facilities. If we didn't know they had a really bad history and they wanted to get even, that would have been a horrifying scene.
Even with that, I was looking at it. No, just end it. Just end it.
Yeah.
Kill him
pretty
quickly.
Intense. That's true. Yeah, but overall, I think it was a really it was a nice. Oh.
Did what casino did they go into?
I can't remember. Yeah. It was on kind of the old school strip ones, right?
Right.
It was,
But did they have like product placement? Because why would you go to a casino and he's like, leave the limo in the front?
Oh yeah.
Keep it here, and it's not inconspicuous. It's a limousine. Right. It's shot up, and I was like, "Oh, they're gonna go in the casino and then go out the back." And they're like, "No, we'll stay in the casino." And you're like, "I don't know if that's a smart play there." You want to be found, and then they found them.
Right. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know why they needed Caliban. It was like, Caliban, go. Oh wait, there's the limo. Probably in the casino. So we'll go. I loved how they showed Professor X's powers.
Yeah.
How that was.
That was really, they did a nice job at that. It was really intense. I've done stuff like that with him before in the previous X-Men movies, but not that kind of completely out of control, completely destructive version of that. So that was really crazy to see. And they handled so that created an interesting action scene where Wolverine is trying to make it back to the room, and basically everyone is paralyzed, but he can still move, he can still resist that power, so he's just one at a time putting his claws through everyone's head until once they get him medicated, everyone just
that's
drops.
Almost like the reverse Quicksilver scene.
That's true.
Days of Future Past, it just slowed down.
Right. Yeah, instead of him moving too fast, everyone is slowed down. But I had a funny reaction as they were leaving, and I guess because they had a more playful tone when they were going up into the room and they're buying clothes and trying on hats and things. When they're coming down and Professor X is sorry, and people are just wrecked. People have had their minds scrambled, and he's just in that Old Man sorry, I didn't mean to step on your toe, I didn't mean to knock over your drink. It was too small. His apology was small and a little bit funny because everyone was wrecked. Just like everyone is laying on the floor. What
well, he can't remember really what he did.
No,
and then later I guess they kind of explain it, but yeah, when you do that, and he's like, and you're not taking your meds, why?
right.
It makes me. I didn't really have a good reason. No, but definitely, I love that movie. I could watch it again in the black and white version, which I did hear is better.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I would be curious. Curious to see it that way.
So definitely. Thumbs up.
Yeah, definitely recommendation for I think for both.
I would rank this maybe number 2 of my superhero movies.
Wow, really? Yeah. For me, it's definitely really high, and coming up, I don't know because I liked The Dark Knight, and
that's definitely my top 5.
Yeah,
I would probably put Deadpool above Logan. And the reason is, I think the Deadpool was harder to pull off. To have that tone, it was just executed perfectly. And it wasn't too jokey. It was still engaging to watch the action scenes in Deadpool.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to think about that because it's definitely up there because I like the tone of it, and I like the the at the end of your life, the kind of
love that.
Yeah. It's a really nice interesting introspective setting for heroes to be at. I think there's still more room to explore that, especially with heroes with different kinds of powers, kind of facing the end of their lives.
Yeah, and we were talking, because we do, I mean, The Idle Bird Hands is primarily a gaming podcast/video cast.
Yeah.
Is that what we call these videos?
Video podcasts?
Oh,
sure, I don't know.
And we're going to be putting this on VHS, right?
Right. It'll be coming to you, maybe even beta.
We'll be mailing you VHS cassettes.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, made me think about the kind of game, like when we play role-playing games, we tend to, you think about Dungeons & Dragons, you start at level 1 and you progress, and you're always starting the story.
Right.
Even when you have an elaborate backstory, you're still kind of, no one goes, even the redemption is sort of, that if people work into their backstories, kind of like, as a kid this happened, or I was a soldier who fled the battlefield and now I need some redemption. But this was, this was a life not well lived, and at its end, and now we start kind of the adventure. Now we start the story.
Right.
I mean, here they're not starting the story because we had actually seen some of his past adventures. But yeah, just thinking how interesting it would be to playing a role-playing game, starting it or resurrecting a character from the past.
Right.
And then playing them 10, 15, 20 years later when they are retired and something brings them back. And not just like, oh, now I'm level 15 and I'm really powerful fighting this alien invasion, but playing the problems that you do have when you get older. And they could be the sort of psychological or physical dependency problems that Wolverine had or Logan had. Or it could be just like the dementia or senility or whatever Professor X had. Just these things that unfortunately happen with time. Or happen from the downside of experience in Logan's case. And starting your next adventure, your next campaign, or your next story from there, I think would be really good.
Yeah, I like that. That's exactly what I was thinking when we first talked about this is, a lot of people have their favorite character or a character that went through many campaigns, and that might have even been done when you were a teenager or a university student. And if you still had access to that player sheet, or if you could somehow, recreate that, it would be so interesting with the experience of age to age that character and put them in a situation where there was a necessary redemption, like put something in that character's life that they had to, at this end of their life, kind of make up for, what had happened between their younger days and now. And I think that would be interesting because players would bring a lot of their life experience to those characters, and they wouldn't be playing them in the same fun way. I think there's some interesting sadness and kind of pathos that would exist now that would make it a much more interesting experience, because people maybe when they're younger would have chosen, I chose the big strong character because I'm a little guy, or I chose the graceful beautiful character because I'm a crusty little chubby kid. And it's interesting now, like as an adult, like when you're more comfortable in your skin, when you've settled who you are, kind of like looking back at that character, that creation of when you were younger, and kind of seeing what that meant to you, or finding some kind of closure for that original childhood fantasy version of yourself.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think you could have things like in basic mechanics, like a negative initiative.
It
or
used to be a big deal
yeah.
in earlier editions of D&D, like first edition, I don't know if it made it to second edition, definitely in first edition, where if you played your character, no, I think in second edition, but you played your character at a certain stage of your life, you got bonuses, like for example wisdom, but then you got negatives on your strength and that. I wonder if, I don't think that's in 5th edition, but I wonder if people are worried about accusations of ageism. So of course you couldn't contrast a male or female character, although some RPGs have done them. I don't know if any reputable one had done it, but maybe if you did something where the older you get, the weaker you get, and maybe you lose charisma or something, people go, oh, that's really ageist.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, that's true. You
got to be more sensitive, but bringing that in. I mean, the system might not be. You could bring it into the system, although I don't think you could publish the system like that. But I really like your meta idea of taking this was my childhood fantasy. Now I've got my own life experiences, and I will now incorporate that into my ideal at the end. Maybe it just seems immature. Now you add in the maturity, and then you play this character at this stage.
Yeah, and kind of see where you are. Yeah.
Yeah, how would you want to make... I mean, you're restricted because this is your starting point.
Yeah, definitely.
Your own adolescence is your restriction. And now you got to say, how did you end up? Or how did this character end up? And then play it. Yeah, that'd be really good. Or I was thinking, like, I remember how our 13th Age game wrapped up, where the characters made two different but valid choices. One, continuing on the hero's path, if you will, and the other escaping. And we had a little bit of an epilogue where the one that escaped kind of goes back to the hero who's now living a really great life, and the one that escapes kind of in exile, and just having that kind of closure. But then having, if you played this 13th Age game in the future, then those two players, like, you know, the grandiose one realizes he needs to get the exiled one back, and kind of playing out, and it's like, oh, don't betray me this time, and then the exiled one perhaps is like, I need that redemption, you know.
Yeah. I think that
and the player actually felt bad. He's like, well, the choice you're giving me, my character actually is not going to choose the heroic path. He's going to choose the escape. And we're like, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
But now they're like, I failed, and I live with that shame every day, and then they can add that into like this older character coming back. And you think like so many great movies or great stories have that. I mean, David Gemmell's Legend. I think they went back and did other, what's his name? Something the Axe. Trust the Axe. Anyway, it's a fantasy story, but I think the first novel he writes is set in Rusty X's twilight years.
Oh, wow.
And everybody loved it. So he's like, okay, I'll write some more stories about him.
Wow. Yeah.
But he's in his twilight years, and he's brought back for one last adventure.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an interesting and not very explored setting for an RPG, because you know it's usually the end of the world, like it's the end times, or things are, the world is ending, but not just that character's life is ending, and how do you end their story?
And RPGs seem to be going more back, or going the other way. I'm seeing a lot of RPGs coming up with I think Masks is superheroes in a high school,
right?
Just like Monster Hearts is monsters in a high school, right? I think one of our Wayne, our friend, is going to be making witches in a high school.
Oh, right.
Yes. Which is fine. I mean, that's great. But people are going to, and I think it's probably nostalgia. They're going to people going back, and I love watching high school movies, and I know why. Because I'm old and I don't have high school anymore.
Right.
So you watch something like Riverdale, or even something like The 100, which is like high school set in a post-apocalypse, and they're doing stuff. But I love those, because I love those kind of innocent dynamics, even when they try to make them edgy, but it's just more innocent in real life. And you got that nostalgia factor, and people are like, well, I guess they're thinking it's going to appeal to kids, but it's probably appealing to old people going, I want to play myself as a teenager.
Yeah, that's true.
But I guess we're proposing the one that people might resist, and it's like, how would you play yourself now? Or how would you play yourself 60 or in 20 years in the future, when you're even more beaten down by life? And incorporate that and see if you can have fun.
Yeah, I think
just like the Barrel of Logan was.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think those might be some pretty somber sessions, but it's interesting. I mean, there's interesting material there, and I think personal redemption, or how do you find a satisfying ending to a character's story. I mean, that's some interesting decision making that in a high school setting you're not going to be making. You're just going to be having fun, and how many girlfriends can I juggle, or how can I be at the top of my clique, kind of.
Yeah, well, I mean, just thinking about your high school life, everything is broken down into like or just your school life. Everything broken down into school years, like year. Each one seems more different. Whereas you play yourself towards the end of your life, and it's decades.
Yes.
And everything's just blurred in.
Right. That's an interesting point too, because you would have like their history, like after their adolescence and after their young adulthood, things would blur, and you could kind of create what happened in that backstory in kind of more sweeping generalizations and kind of more hard to remember details.
I pledged a Cortex Prime, and they have a number of different settings. One of them, the witch, which is in high school. Look out for that. I think it's called Spell Caught. No.
I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, Wayne. But there's another one, and I actually don't remember the name of this one. But it's heroes being brought back. I think it might even be Golden Age heroes brought back for one last mission of dire importance. And I'm wondering what the tone of that, because is it going to be like Justice Society? I don't know if you ever read the Justice Society comics that were brought back, and they're great comics, but it's a pretty light, pretty classic tone, which was definitely the intent, because when DC was doing this, they were getting away from the grim, what do they call it, the Iron Age of the 90s?
I don't know.
I don't know, it's like the Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, and then I think there was the Iron Age.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
And that's a bit grimmer and darker. And then getting away from that and bringing back more of a combination of I think the Silver Age and the Iron Age, kind of mixing it up. Although I think the Bronze Age was pretty fabulous. And I'm wondering if it's going to be like that kind of lighter tone. So they're not really they're kind of cranky.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh, whippersnappers, I'll show you how it's done, as opposed to, I'm suffering from Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
I have this massive power, but it's going to be very inconsistent because my body's breaking down. I'm living in poverty, or they had to get this guy out of like an abusive old folks home. Seniors home.
Yeah, right.
What do we call them?
Yeah, senior
retirement.
Yeah,
retirement community.
Yeah, right. I think that's interesting with like Golden Age characters. Coming back or in a modern setting, the thing that we're always faced with is kind of that black and white. Our opinion, our uncomplicated opinion of like the greatest generation or the war, the World War II generation, is they're seeing everything very simply. So in a more complicated world, it's going to be a little humorous.
Yeah, I'm guessing Cortex Prime is it's pretty kind of a progressive kind of game. I doubt if it's going to be in my day. There were men and there were women. There was no, I don't know what I am.
Right.
Playing that.
But I think playing characters that have come from kind of morally gray times and in their future, I think that's a little more interesting, because I think that's what you're always going to be, just kind of just within our lifetime and our history, our grandparents thought more simply, and there wouldn't be very interesting or complicated characters confronting some of, more modern problems, more complex problems. And I think it would be more interesting for, at least kids that established their morality in the 70s with anti-heroes to actually, see what they would do, given the same, end of life circumstances. But I don't know. There's just something there that I think is a little more interesting in how they would tend to. Yeah, it seems like the past is always kind of simplified. Bringing something that far from the past, you're going to run into how we simplified their judgments and their thinking.
Yeah, or even like you were talking. One thing you liked about Logan is that the story was so small, and what could be good is scaling back a story. I mean, you think about it, as you progress in level or experience as a character, you always got to ramp things up, just like a movie series. So that's why when you start with saving the world, now it's saving the universe. Anyway.
Yeah, right.
And there you could be, now you got to do something like Seven Samurai, or like Shane, you're like saving a family.
Right. Yeah, to kind of bring it down to that sort of scale and make and have those decisions matter a lot more. And and it's smaller heroics. Yeah, I think that's an interesting.
And Logan's also like a Western more than it is a superhero movie.
Yeah, and especially the setting really makes you feel that way. You know, there's a little bit of road movie, and then they're in the Southwest. So yeah,
and bringing in using like the superhero genre to actually play the Western genre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or different genres, I guess. You could use World of Darkness to do a Western, because Western RPGs tend not to do all that well.
Mm-hmm.
There's Deadlands, I guess. But even Deadlands was sort of like the Western trappings to do something else, like playing like a supernatural game.
Right.
Not following the themes of all the great Westerns. And yeah, a lot of them were just like at the end, like John, True Grit, Unforgiven.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's an
I stopped it too. Yeah, all those great Westerns. There's Rooster Cogburn and the lady.
But I think that as a setting should be explored. But I do see what you were saying about publishing those kind of rules, or publishing the penalties of aged characters is going to look very ageist and not going to be, I think, very very well received. Yeah. But I think it's important. I think it's necessary, and I think with our whole culture's reluctance to accept aging and to accept aging beauty as even a thing. Everyone needs to freeze their face in their 30s with Botox and surgery. Like it would be an interesting thing to explore. To look at is
and when people play older characters in the games I've been, at least, they play them almost for laughs, where they are the kind of the like Merlin in Once and Future King.
Right.
Which kind of formed the basis for Sword in the Stone.
Like
kind of like that.
Right.
As opposed to the more wise Gandalf or whatever. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking when we're talking about Golden Age characters in a modern setting. Is the role is just kind of buffoonish and silly, and your old ideals and your old thought, your old thinking.
Let's bring back the Confederacy. Where are the Confederate flags?
Where are the statues?
Where's my heritage? I'm like,
right.
Yeah, Granddad, things have changed.
But there's definitely something there, and I think just thinking about aging wizards aren't hard to imagine, but what about aging barbarians or aging rogues or aging druids? That you could have. There's some interesting things to explore that people aren't really focusing on, because they're looking at starting at level 1 and reaching this peak of their powers, and in the prime of their life, at the height of their abilities, and there's definitely something there, and I think there's a rule set that could make that very interesting and create some good role playing, some good dramatics. Yeah.
Do you think a young person could really play an old person? Because an old person can think back to when they were young.
Right.
Yeah, so we could play Monster Hearts.
Yeah,
and then play a kind of. Well, obviously we weren't monsters. In high school, we would play a fantasy version of our own high school experience, or an idealized version, or even do young people even watch movies about old people?
I remember being traumatized by Cocoon when I was young, and
but even Cocoon was old is bad,
right? Just thinking,
young.
I don't, right? Because that was the thing. Yeah, the whole movie was it's good to always be young, even if it involves alien powers.
Well, young people these days don't have Golden Girls.
Yeah.
Or Matlock.
That's right. None of those.
They have choice to flip away. Yeah.
No, but I think that's interesting. I think it would be a rare young player that could play an old character well, and that would probably be only because they had a grandfather or great grandfather that was a good role model in their life.
Or a bad role model.
Or bad,
but at least in their life.
Right.
Yeah, in Japan, I guess. I don't know. Does Japan really respect the elderly as much as people outside of Japan think they do? I don't know. So, I guess to sum up, Logan, an amazing movie. If you haven't already seen it, sorry, because we spoiled everything. But I still think you could enjoy it just for the performances. Yeah. And yeah, when you watch a movie like that, definitely look for kind of the themes and the things that you might enjoy, and try to think this might be able to enrich your role-playing experience.
Definitely. Yeah, I think there's a lot of unexplored material there, and it's definitely worth. I mean, and films like Logan can inform that. I think can give people interesting ideas and interesting settings because we haven't seen, those specific superheroes at that stage in their life. So that's good material to start, exploring.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well, thank you for joining us. Do you agree with our thoughts on Logan? Or our thoughts on Japanese people on the train? Really, just people on the train. People on the train. Sorry. But if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And please comment on other movies that depicted old people in a respectful way. Or in an interesting way that you think would be worthwhile for people to see so that they can, I guess, be more informed in how they play their older characters.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye.